Bros, we back again. So I read the book. We're gonna do it a little bit different. As you can see, I'm going live with it, so it's not necessarily a video I did somewhere else. YouTube, y'all been good to me. I'm not gonna lie. YouTube, y'all been especially sweet. There's a relationship there that I don't have on every other site, right? And I'm talking to you who's watching this back, right? I appreciate you. You can be anywhere. YouTube is huge. The world is even bigger. And you can be anywhere in that world, but you're right here with me for this moment. And I appreciate that. So I read the book, 21 Indispensable Qualities of a Leader by John C. Maxwell. New York Times bestseller, over 1 million sold. You probably read it. You've seen it. If you haven't, you might want to. I can't necessarily tell you what to do, what to read or anything like that. I don't know where you at in your journey. If it's a book you would even care about. But I'm going to tell you what my thoughts on it were. There were 21 indispensable qualities. And I did a few episodes reading and, I did a little bit of studying on the YouTube and how old do I sound? I did a little bit of studying on the website about the website and how these things work. I'm nervous about reading the book outright on the stream. I'm opening myself up to copyright infringement. I'm opening myself up to copyright strikes. And if you know anything about these YouTube streets, copyright strikes are the feds. You know what I'm saying? I don't want that. You want to avoid that at all costs. So I'm going to be doing a little bit different. I read it myself. Oh, I'm sorry, bumping on the mic. There we go. Probably sounds a lot better. Sorry if my audio is messed up. Y'all let me know if y'all can hear me down in the comments, but I appreciate you rocking with me. I'll tell you my thoughts on the book. I can read, small excerpts and things like that. So that's helpful. That helps me to not feel nervous the whole time. Like, man, somebody's just kind of watching me read. I felt like that might be boring for you all. I do watch these videos back. I'm super, analytical. I'm my own biggest critic. So I'm constantly thinking about that. I want it to be a little bit more dynamic. Namely, I want to be able to make eye contact, right? I want to be able to interact. I want you to feel like it's an interactive experience because I really do appreciate you. I know that you're a real life human being out there. Even though I was just reading about dead internet theory recently. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. Dead internet theory says that there's not even human beings on the... See, let me say stuff right so I don't misrepresent. Dead internet theory is that more than half of the internet, majority of the traffic on the internet is no longer human beings, actual flesh and blood, carbon-based human beings. And that is just such an interesting, concept to think. And it really gets deep. Check it out. I would love to read a book about dead internet theory. I have not found any books. I haven't started looking, so don't let me say I haven't found any, but I'm not familiar with that too well. It's just something I dipped my toe into probably this last week, but it is fascinating. So I'm very interested. But I did read John C. Maxwell, The 21 Indispensable Qualities of a Leader. It was suggested to me by an executive at my job. I very much appreciate that. I see why he wanted me to read this. So what I'm going to do is we'll be here for a while. Y'all feel free to pop in, pop out. I'm talking to the live stream right now. 99% of this video's audience is watching on the replay. So I'm just going to continue to talk like you're right here right now because I know that you are. But I'm also not going to ignore my live folks. So I see you. I appreciate you. Hey, what's up? I won't necessarily have my nose all in the camera trying to read the comments, but I will respond to any comments afterwards, right? So I will do that. The whole social media thing, I certainly appreciate that. But book, I'll go through the chapters. I'm not going to do, what's up? I'm not going to do, who do I look like? This is a fun game. And what's interesting is different people tell me I look like different people. So I'm just like a box of melted crayons at this point. I look like this guy, I look like that guy. It's a compliment most times. Sometimes folks will try to play you like, you look like, but what you got? See? Why you gonna do me like that? I just don't understand. I'm not even gonna repeat the name you said, man. Y'all gonna have to watch the video. Y'all gonna have to check it out for yourself. I don't understand, man. I mean, he's famous in a way. He's infamous. He's definitely infamous. Man, I wasn't expecting that, but I appreciate it. It'll stick in your head. You know what I'm saying? At least you can take a joke. Absolutely. I mean, we gotta laugh. No. It's better than who I think I look like, right? When we want to talk about our own insecurities and who the voices in our head tell us, we good, man. I appreciate you. This is exactly what I love. I don't have a name for you all. Some of my favorite YouTube channels have like a what they call their tribe. I feel like I'm a little too fresh in the game for that, but that is the energy. So if anybody else is watching, that's the energy. Let's have some fun. Again, we're going to talk about books. We're going to talk about analysis, my personal thoughts, but I always say I appreciate you being here. So it's not, doesn't make any sense for me to just act like you're not. So I definitely understand that. Ned from Spider-Man. Now, is this the new Spider-Man, the No Way Home, or not? Sorry, no. All I know is this the one where Mary Jane don't know who he is. You know what I'm saying? I know that. I know she tried my boy. You know what? I just hold on, man. Something ain't really hitting like it's supposed to be hitting, man. I don't have my earring in. I'm right here next to my bed, but that's one of my insecurities again showing. I'm like, I don't have any jewelry on. They know I'm cool, you know? Mom. Anyway, so the new Spider-Man, is it hitting like that? Is it really going like that? I don't know. All I know is she didn't remember my boy. I see all the little TikTok memes, so I know at one point he was swinging her home, and somebody said, "Hold her harder, Peter," or something like that. Again, I don't know, man, but I rock with Spidey. I almost said I rock with Spidey, but again, I'm not sure where I want to take the channel, but I do want to keep it clean because that's where the paper's at. So I will say that the entire purpose is, you know what I'm saying? We're trying to get to the bread in a very long term, long scale way. This is not getting ready to be one of them. Send me a cash app. Send me. This isn't that. Now I may get a producer at some point, and they may want to take the show in a different direction. But I just love reading. I love reading, man. At least they got on me as a kid. You know, oh, you think you this or you think you that. I'm like, I just think I like reading, man. You know what I'm saying? I read all the Game of Thrones before the show came on TV, and I still loved it. Like it was, bro, it's so dope. It's immersive, and it's just the way to grow. So I figure, hey, if I enjoy doing this, I could potentially benefit other people. You don't have to go do all the work. I did it. I did it and I like doing it. Make book suggestions. What you want me to read? You know what I'm saying? Like, now I'm not guaranteeing anything y'all put up in here because I can already tell. I don't know your name yet, but whoever called me the funny one, I'm not taking no book suggestions from the funny one. But the dude who said I look like Ned, I might want to hear what he, has to say. The funny one, he gonna stay funny though. He's welcome, you know what I'm saying? Stay, crack another joke, you know what I'm saying? I appreciate you. Real talk. I don't got no shade, but I'm gonna be here for a while. I don't know how long this will be, but it'll be at least an hour. So again, feel free to pop in, pop out. I got me a little bit of white wine, I got my lamp going. We good, we chilling. So this book was dope, bro. First of all, the executive that suggested it to me, the way that we met was awesome. My director, so my boss's boss, was gone. I don't know what they were doing. Family vacation, maternity leave, paternity leave. Some devs in the chat. So that person was gone, right? Highly respected leader. He was gone. This person was filling in for that person. So I had never met them, didn't know them. We had some initiatives together. I suggested some things. He was very receptive, which doesn't always happen when you're dealing in corporate America with your higher ups, and certainly not your skip level higher ups. But it was organic. It was unique. He had a very down to earth leadership style. He was one of those leaders that were real cool, real casual, and then would just slip in, but I'm gonna need, double what you've been putting up. Just because I believe in you, not because I'm crazy and not because, we do it for the paper, but just because I see something in you. So why don't you go ahead and send me a daily report on what you've been doing? Yeah, because I rock with you. I know you can handle it. He was that kind of type, and I resonate with that. So anyway, he suggested this book to me, John C. Maxwell. I don't know that I was super familiar with him, but I think I'm familiar with some of his work. I mean, he is a best-selling author. He's done, all kinds of stuff, but he wrote like a different 21 Qualities kind of book. And I don't remember the exact title. He does mention it a few times in here, but I don't remember exactly. So what I'm going to do today, what we're going to do is I'm just going to go through the chapters. Again, I'm not going to read for anybody that might just be, tapping in. I'm not going to just read straight from the book. I can't do that for monetization and repetitious content reasons. But I'm going to go through these chapters and I'll just give you the thoughts that came to me, kind of what I took from the book. There's 21 chapters, so it's not going to be too long, but it will be kind of meaty, back and forth again, as you all suggest more books. I'll be familiar with what you're reading. You'll be familiar with what I'm reading. We'll make it a day. Tell your friends to call my friends. We can do this every weekend. Anyway, so let's dive right in. It's nothing too crazy, nothing too hard, and we'll get it going. So chapter 1 was character. Be a piece of the rock. Now, there are 2 quotes that he opens every chapter with. So I feel comfortable reading those quotes. It'll kind of shade the conversation. So I'll read the chapter. Obviously I'll tell you the chapter title. I will read the 2 quotes and then we'll just kind of, we'll kind of chop it up. Man, Dubs in the chat is going crazy. All right, man. Cosmic Ducky, man. I think that's who it is. I certainly appreciate you dropping in, dropping by. Y'all been the greatest. So chapter one is character. The two quotes are: leadership is the capacity and will to rally men and women to a common purpose, and the character which inspires confidence. Bernard Montgomery, who was a British field marshal. Never, this is the second quote, never, for the sake of peace and quiet, deny your own experience or convictions. Dag Hammarskjöld, statesman and Nobel Prize winner. Man, character was a good one. It was a great appetizer to what would go on to be a fantastic book. I think when I think about character, it's those moments like who you are. I think there's kind of two scenarios that really bring out a person's character: when you don't have much and when you have more than you need. I think both of those, take what you want with those, you fill in the blanks there for yourself. But I think that both of those situations kind of create the circumstances where your character shows through. And character is one of those things that do feel grows and morphs. I don't think we all just have, I'm hesitant because I'm thinking about like core principles and core values. I do think we have core values in the sense of like a category. But I think the values themselves may change as we grow and evolve. I hate to use that word. I feel like it's so overused, but I do think that your character, like for me, I would just use an example. I think that one of my character traits is my willingness to grow. And to grow, I have to acknowledge that, like, I've never been here before or there before. If I'm reaching upwards, I've never been taller than I am right now. I'm 6'2". I've never been 6'4". My dad is 6'4". Why can't I be 6'4"? But anyway, I've never been there, but I'm still trying to get there, right? And I think that the reason I say it's a character trait is I've fallen on my face. I've failed so many times at so many things, but the keep goingness has been prevalent that whole time. So the keep goingness has had me feeling like, hey, I'm not going out like this. You know what I'm saying? That was tough. That was rough. There's been times where I wanted to quit. I mean, one of my songs, I may reference lines a lot, but I said, giving up on giving up. I've tried to quit. I'm done with this. I'll never do this again. And I just couldn't. Something kept calling me, pulling on me. And that's why I feel like it's a character trait. So I'm very curious what character traits you have. Feel free to drop a character trait down in the comments below. As always, please make sure that you like. That really helps. As content creators always says, it helps with the algorithm. So I certainly appreciate y'all liking it. I see I got a few likes there already. It's not necessarily why I do it, but I do appreciate it when it happens. So let's keep it rocking and rolling. That was character. Chapter 2, charisma. The first impression can seal the deal. 2 quotes. How can you have charisma? Be more concerned about making others feel good about themselves than you are making them feel good about you. Dan Ryland, executive pastor at 12 Stone Church in Lawrenceville, Georgia. That was good. Second quote. I have yet to find the man, however exalted his station, who did not do better work and put forth greater effort under a spirit of approval than under a spirit of criticism. Charles Schwab, industrialist. Charisma. Man, this chapter sticks with me to this day. I'm so glad. It's probably one of those anchor chapters, and I'm just making that term up on the spot, but it sounded really good, right? What I mean when I say an anchor chapter is, you know what it's like. You read a book or you watch a movie. You don't remember every single line unless it's Step Brothers and you've watched it a million times like me, right? Or Tropic Thunder. But if you're like a normal person, right? You're watching a movie, you see it, it's funny, haha, I loved it. We were just talking about Spider-Man a few minutes ago because somebody said I look like Ned. Somebody said I look like a movie star. Y'all believe that? I don't think I look like a movie star, but that's what they said. I look like a movie star. Anyway, I think that, see, I lost my thought there. Y'all got to keep me honest. I was talking about charisma. I was talking about the movies. You watch a movie, you don't remember every line of dialogue, but you remember certain scenes. I'm going to remember this. Like, you know what I mean? I'm logging this into memory. That's how I feel when I say like an anchor chapter. You're reading the book and I'm coming back for this later. Uh-huh. Now, don't dog ear the book. Don't let me catch you doing that. Right? That's nasty. Don't do that. But save your space and you want to come back. Anyway, charisma stuck with me because I feel like everybody wants to think of themselves as charismatic. And I don't know that everyone is, in fact, charismatic. But I do think people are far more charismatic than you may think. I think if you give people a chance, if you actually, I heard a saying once, I don't know where I heard it, but it was like there's no one on earth or there's no one alive who, if you really knew their story, that you wouldn't love, you know? And I don't know if they meant it this way, but I internalized it this way. Like, I'm sure that's true if I'm seeing the story from that person's perspective. That makes sense. I think that everybody, most people, see themselves, life is going by in front of your face, right? And you're watching this, you're watching your thoughts, and you're watching your past, and you're watching your future, and you're thinking, right? That's what keeps us from feeling sometimes, just from being in the moment, all this thinking that we do. And again, I can only speak to me, so don't let me project on you. Please don't let me project on you. I think that in the midst of all the thinking, we do position ourselves as like, hey, I can see when I run it back how I messed up or how I offended that person or how what I did crossed this person's boundary. But I, at that time, was not aware of that person's boundary. So I think there is something to be said for that. I think it's a distinct delineation, but I think intent creates a distinct delineation in terms of like, hey, did this person cross a boundary absent-mindedly? They didn't know? Or did this guy hop your fence, right? Break into your back door, for lack of a better term. These people intentionally encroaching upon your boundaries and your limits, or, is this happenstance? You're from Turkey. Wow, that's fantastic. I always love international visitors. I am from America for sure, but I have visited, Tanzania. What's the other spot? Ethiopia, some fantastic places. So I've never been to Turkey. I do not think the closest I've ever been to Turkey is Thanksgiving. But I appreciate you tapping in. So charisma, we were just talking about charisma. I'm reading the 21 indispensable qualities of a leader, or should I say I've already read it. Now I'm kind of discussing it chapter by chapter. I'm on chapter 2, charisma. And what really stuck with me here was it talks about kind of putting other people. I was continuing the story like there's no one alive that you wouldn't, love if you knew their story. And then I added the caveat. I was like, but you got to know the story from their perspective, because if other people tell you the story, they may say, man, this guy had my fence. Oh my God. So he's already painted as somebody who's done something wrong. Whereas the person telling the story may say, man, this one night I was just like walking around looking for my dog, got completely lost. And then I looked up and I was like, oh my God, I'm in this guy's backyard. Now it's kind of like innocent fun. It's like, oh my God, what a quirky story. In the middle of the night, this guy had hot my fence. Now, if you have a synthesis, obviously, if you could hear both stories and make your own conclusion, but most of the time, that's not what happens. Most of the time, you don't get to hear everybody's side of the story. In fact, it's extremely rare. I'm dealing with that myself because I'm the type of person who wants to talk everything out. I want to hear what you have to say. Then I want to hear what you have to say. Then, if it's okay with you all, I'd like to share. And in the real world, nobody gives up. They got other stuff to do. They're too busy, right? I respect that. I can get that. But when you are dealing in those one-on-one situations and you are having those conversations with people, I try to think about how can I make this person, and I think the charisma chapter has, enriched this thought. How can I make this person feel like I'm hearing the story from the way you're telling it, right? And that's a challenge sometimes. I think a lot of times, again, we have our own personas. That's who we kind of present, this amalgamation of our different personality traits. And I think that we sometimes respond a lot of times we respond. I think as opposed to receiving, like, I just want to receive. I want you to continue sharing. I don't want you to share just until the point where it triggers me to share, right? Now, I want to create a safe space where you feel comfortable, giving. When you put something in, you feel like, yeah, this person appreciates what I'm putting in. And that's what I think that charisma really comes down to based on the reading of this chapter. It's about making other people. Let me see. There was a young lady who had talked with two different politicians on different nights. And she said, when somebody asked about her impression of them, she said, quote, when I left the dining room after sitting next to Mr. Gladstone, I thought he was the cleverest man in England. But after sitting next to Mr. Disraeli, I thought I was the cleverest woman in England. And I thought that was so cool. It was like, and everybody, I will say this. I think that charisma is fantastic. I enjoy talking and being around charismatic people, but I will say that you've got to be, I don't want to say cautious because I think that saying You got to be cautious, makes people kind of like dampen that emotion. I'm not saying be wary, just be aware that being charismatic does carry the risk of people feeling like you're being manipulative. Okay. Because some people are not accustomed to people being like that. Like I said, most people are talking to respond. And through societal conditioning, so I'm not putting any blame on these people. We are conditioned to kind of distrust something that breaks the norm. I heard a stat recently that was like 95%. I don't know if it's true. I probably shouldn't have even repeated it. I took statistics and I know that how repeating a number can make it true to the listener. So please scrap that from your memory. But a large part of what we do is autopilot, habits, subconscious, conditioning, things that we just kind of wake up and do. And if that is the case, that also goes for our thoughts. I did read a book called Subconscious, How Your Mind is Secretly Controlling You, or something along those lines. I gotta find it. I got some books around here. I'm becoming such an old man. I know I got a book around here somewhere. But charisma, I was saying that you gotta be just aware that it may come across as manipulative. And we are conditioned that if something is not normal, just like, hey, what was that sound downstairs? He didn't say, hey, I wonder what that sound was in the middle of the night downstairs. Like, it makes sense. It's a defense mechanism that makes sense. Hey, that seems unfamiliar. I don't recognize that guy. We're at the barbecue. Who is that? One of y'all's cousins? I don't know that guy. Who is he? I'm not necessarily tripping, but who is he? I need to know who he is, right? Should I be tripping? I'm pre-tripping. You ever heard pre-diabetic? I'm pre-tripping. You know what I'm saying? I'm not tripping, but who is this dude? You know what I'm saying? So I think you got to be very aware that once you start really engaging with people and saying, hey, I want you to, share, go on. People either A, don't want to, which is fine, which is fair, or they're just completely suspicious of what's going on. That's not the norm for them, right? So anyway, enough about charisma. As you could tell, I really enjoyed that chapter. Like I said, it was an anchor chapter. Number 3, chapter 3, commitment. It separates doers from dreamers. 2 quotes. People do not follow uncommitted leaders. Commitment can be displayed in a full range of matters to include the work hours you choose to maintain, how you work to improve your abilities, or what you do for your fellow workers at personal sacrifice. Stephen Gregg, Chairman and CEO of Ethics Corp. Quote number 2. He who has done his best for his own time has lived for all times. Johann von Schiller, a playwright. Man, commitment is such a great topic in my mind because it's really nuanced. It is extremely nuanced. I feel like I don't know why this example just came to me, but it did. Like water. If I say, hey, think of water, some of you thought of a glass of water. Some of you might have thought of the ocean. Some of you might have thought of a river. Some of you might have thought of a fire hydrant. Some of you might have thought of rain. Some of you might have thought of ice. Some of you might have thought of the shower. All of you would be correct. Absolutely correct. Right? So when we use these words, yes, we all understand, we all comprehend the phonetics of that word. I know when he says water, I recognize that word. But where does the definition in my mental library stick? We're talking about the scientific properties, H2O. Oh, he's talking about the shower. Oh, he's talking about cleanliness. Oh, he's talking about biology. 80% of my body is water. Like wherever your brain goes to first is you're right. You're completely right. But we go to different places. And I think that commitment is one of those things that we all know the word. When you hear it, you understand the phonetics of it. But I think we go to distinctly different places. I think that for some people, the word commitment brings up automatic feelings of servitude and slavery. I have to swear. If I swear that I'm in, now you're going to take advantage of it, right? And that's a fair thought. I don't know what your lived experience is. I think other people think of commitment as like, I don't quite know how this is going to turn out. I don't know where the path is going to lead, but this is the way we're going, right? Quick example, again, it just popped into my mind, a GPS. When you're using Google Maps, Waze, Apple Maps, whatever you're using, you get on that highway, and let's say you're going to you've really never been, you don't know, but you're committed to that app. Again, it's a silly example, but you don't know. But the thing says make this left, I'm going to make this left. It says take exit 9, I'm going to take exit 9. I'm committed to getting there. I know that I'm going to this place. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to get there. I'll find some different resources on the way. Google Maps might be tripping, might lead me into a traffic jam, and I pull up Waze. But I'm committed to going wherever I'm going. You thought the story was about the app. I'm committed to going wherever I said I was going to go, right? I'm willing to make some changes. I'm willing to change up how I get there. I'm willing to take a different route, but I'm committed to the getting there. Okay. I think that chapter was so good because he talks about commitment in the sense of dedication, devotion. Like I think he talked about Michelangelo painting the Sistine Chapel and how he committed years of his life. I think he had to lay on his back, or he was painting on his back. Excuse me. He was laying on his back and painting for years at a time. I think it said several of his friends. Now I'm talking about the book, The 21 Indispensable Qualities of a Leader by John C. Maxwell. In his book, chapter 3, he's talking about Michelangelo painting the Sistine Chapel, and he mentions, some of his friends hadn't seen him. Michelangelo's friends hadn't seen him for a while, and it said that he had aged, considerably, noticeably. I think it was like they hadn't seen him in 2 years, but he had aged, by twice that sum. So that's what he was talking about. But the Sistine Chapel, right? Fantastic. He did say, like, somebody had asked him, why are you working so hard and so tirelessly, trying to get every detail correct down to the smallest, corner. And he said, I think the other person said, somebody's not even going to see that. Why are you so focused on getting that done and nobody's even going to see it? And he said, I will know. I'm aware of what I did. And he may not even remember that individual corner, but he remembers his, commitment is my brand. I didn't give up at the baseboards. I didn't just start phoning it in. So that was super cool. I always love stories that take me to, Sistine Chapel. I mean, it doesn't really get better than that. So chapter 4, communication. Without it, you travel alone. 2 quotes. Developing excellent communication skills is absolutely essential to effective leadership. The leader must be able to share knowledge and ideas to transmit a sense of urgency and enthusiasm to others. If a leader can't get a message across clearly and motivate others to act on it, then having a message doesn't even matter. That was Gilbert Amelio, President and CEO of National Semiconductor Corp. Quote number 2, educators take something simple and make it complicated. Communicators take something complicated and make it simple. Man, I don't have the time to talk all about my thoughts about communication, but I do think one thing I'm going to be very, I am of the belief in my personal life. I've been told this for a long time, but I always fought it. I'm becoming of the mind that I talk too much. Okay. Now, of course, you would never say that because you love the sound of my voice and you appreciate me as a person, as a human being who has thoughts. And I appreciate you for appreciating me. Okay. But some people actually think I talk too much. And I've realized that's actually what led me to this, what led me to you. I realized I'm not going to stop talking. So I might as well be speaking with purpose. I might as well be saying what I actually want to say to people who actually want to hear it. There's no reason for me to try to force my thoughts on the people who do not want to hear it. That's cruel. When I think about it, I don't want to hear some of the shit they're talking about. So I got to be fair. I got to be honest. They're not trying to hear all that. But somebody is. So instead of just shutting down and letting depression swallow me like some Venus flytrap, I'm like, why don't I actually go out into the world and say what I want to say and let it resonate with those that it resonates with, right? And I'm learning the more and more that I do that, less is more. When you're actually saying what's from your heart, you say much less. You don't have to wrap it up in a bunch of language. You don't have to talk somebody's ear off. You can just say what you have to say. That person can receive it or that person cannot. That is what it is. Communication is super dope. An excerpt from this, he was talking about back in 1865, Abraham Lincoln had to make a decision. He needed to communicate to one of his generals that was out in the field. All of his hopes as leadership as the president rested on this. He was a considerable communicator, and he wrote the following message. Lieutenant General Grant. General Sheridan says, quote, if the thing is pressed, I think that Lee will surrender. Of course, they were fighting against Robert E. Lee. Let the thing be pressed. Abraham Lincoln. Simple. Hey, this guy over here says, I think if we press old boy, he's gonna fold. Press old boy. That was it. He didn't have to say a whole bunch. I gotta realize I'm in this little, space. I get excited. Ain't no need to be yelling like that. My bad. Let's keep going. Chapter 5. Competence. If you build it, they will come. That's from a movie. Or that line has been used in a movie, but 2 quotes. Here we go. Competence goes beyond words. It's the leader's ability to say it, plan it, and do it in such a way that others know that you know how. In such a way that others know that you know how and know that they want to follow you. John C. Maxwell. Quote number 2. The society which scorns excellence in plumbing because plumbing is a humble activity and tolerates shoddiness in philosophy because it is an exalted activity will have neither good plumbing nor good philosophy. Neither its pipes nor its theories will hold water. John Gardner, author. That's a bar. He did a double entendre. He said neither their pipes, because they hold water, or their theories, because your theory has to hold water. Bars. Anyway, competence. I did do a breakdown on this one. I remember doing a chapter breakdown about competence. So I probably won't even beat that one to death, but I do think competence is important. I think that competence in your area of expertise is what I mentioned before, because that's what's coming to me again. Find your zone of genius, find what you do. I'm just using me right now as an example. Everybody's not going to just sit and talk. They're not going to just read a book and then share their thoughts with the world and hope that, something resonates with it. They're just not. But I'm the type of person who watches that content. I enjoy when others do that, when other people take the time to put their intellectual efforts to work in a way that we all benefit. I'm not going to lie. I appreciate that, right? So same as I'm not a civic designer, but I do appreciate a good park, right? I'm not a city planner, but I love when they got enough lanes so traffic isn't crazy. I can appreciate when people are operating in their zone of genius, when they are operating in their zone of competency. Mwah, chef's kiss. See why we even say that? Because chefs have their own zone of genius that we recognize on a subconscious level. Stick with me, man. We moving quick, man. We moving quick. Chapter 6, man. We're going to keep it pushing, man. We're going to keep it pushing, man. Courage. One person with courage is a majority. 2 quotes. Courage is rightly esteemed the first of human qualities because it is the quality which guarantees all others. Winston Churchill, British Prime Minister. 2nd quote. Courage is fear that has said its prayers. Karl Barth, Swiss theologian. Y'all know that dude online that takes his glasses and throws them after he eats some food? I think his name is Jordan. I very much appreciate his content. I'm not throwing my glasses. I will do one of these for you. I will, you could check them out a little bit, but I'm not going to throw them across the room for your entertainment. I'm not going to do that. Now, if a nice glasses company out there wants to send me some glasses, I'll be happy to chuck them off across the room, okay? But I'm not doing that. But anyway, the reason I say that is because that quote made me want to do that, though. Courage is fear that has said its prayers. I'm not going to go into a whole deep spiritual thing right now, but that hit me deep. Man, somebody is over here chatting it up. I can't see what you got going. What the fuck is that? Oh, man, I'm trying to be clean. I'm sorry, but see, when I see my boy, I get out of character. You know what I'm saying? What's up, man? How are you living? How are you doing? Could be frying chicken every day instead. I'm not going to lie to you, bro. It's all Chick-fil-A out here, bro. Where I work. I'm not going to mention where I work, but it's like that's the only chicken place they know, bro. It's like, y'all want Chick-fil-A for breakfast? We hit a sales contest. Y'all want Chick-fil-A for lunch? We did this. Oh my God, you got a blue shirt on today. Here goes some Chick-fil-A. And I'm like, where can I get a bucket? Just a bucket of some popcorn chicken, bro, with a side of the Nashville hot fries. Man. Now, I have been laying off the fries, but those that know what I'm talking about, they know. But let me stay on track. But I'm very glad that you're here, man. I can't get out of pocket. You know what I'm saying? It's super glad to see you. Some of the worst people in history were courageous. Exactly. He said some of the worst people. Exactly. You think it didn't take balls to be Hitler? And let me clarify right now, because I can already tell the internet's going to clip that up and chop that up. I might have just went viral for all the wrong reasons. I'm saying that you don't think it takes balls to be an absolute POS. You don't think to be a hateful, spiteful, a leader. I don't care if you're Darth Vader. I'm just using that to say, even if you're fighting for evil or for good, leadership is going to take courage. There are plenty of people who want to do bad things or cheer along when bad things are happening. They're not out corralling the troops, though. They're not the general, right? And another thought is from Martin Luther King, where he was saying something about all that's needed for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing, right? It also takes courage on that other side. You got to be able to say, "Hey, bro, I'm not going for that. We're not going for that." Nah, bro. Nah. Courage isn't always beating on your chest. Sometimes it's just a quiet, "Hey, man, I can't let you talk to the lady like that, man. Hey, bro, I can't have you in here cussing in front of all my customers. You know, I'm trying to run an establishment." You don't have to be all raw to be high courage. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to be high volume to be high courage. You know what did I say? See, this is how you know it's your good friend, and I need that. Keep me honest. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Martin Luther King Jr. So I was trying to do an excerpt out of this. Here we go. Eleanor Roosevelt acknowledged, "You gain strength, courage, and confidence by every experience in which you really stop to look fear in the face. You are able to say to yourself, I lived through this horror. I can take the next thing that comes along." Bruh. We're gonna talk about story of my life. Whew, how much you change to develop a spirit of courage in your life. That's a great excerpt from chapter 6. Keeping it pushing. And again, I don't know if y'all have ever read this book, John C. Maxwell, The 21 Indispensable Qualities of a Leader. The chapters themselves are pretty quick. You can get through it relatively quickly. I say relatively as to not be judgmental. I don't know how fast you read. I don't care how fast you read. As long as you're reading, you cool with me, big dog. And I'm talking about paper. I will say that. I got love from my Kindle crew. I got love from my ebook homies. Okay. I got love for the Audible posse. Okay. But I'm talking readers, paper, finger to paper reading. You know what I'm talking about? No judgment if you don't. I'm just telling you who I'm talking to. Okay. Now, let's get it here. Chapter 7, discernment. We're a third of the way through. It's 21 chapters, 21 indispensable qualities of a leader. Chapter 7, discernment. Put an end to unsolved mysteries. Two quotes. Smart leaders believe only half of what they hear. Discerning leaders know which half to believe. John C. Maxwell. That one was a bar. When I heard it the first time, I was like, whoa, he said that. Second quote. The first rule of holes. When you're in one, stop digging. Molly Ivins, columnist. I'm dealing with that right now in my personal life. I'm not going to necessarily open up about all of that right now. But when you feel like you're in a hole, stop digging. I had to really take that to heart. And I'm going to say something that I don't know if this is even a phrase, but I had to take it to action. I think taking it to heart happens a lot. We hear stuff and think about that meme or the little video. It's from years ago. This little boy was arguing with two little girls. You know, ow, you poked my heart. And I think about that. Like there's a difference between acknowledging the hurt, you know, talking about the things, feeling the feelings. That's one thing. And then there's doing the effing work, right? Man, I wasn't aware that. Think about it like laundry. You know, imagine you and your partner nobody's done the laundry in 3 weeks. It's just piling up. You got dirty stuff here. You guys are literally recycling socks. Like, it's not that funky, right? I'm trying to paint a picture here. Let's say that that's what you're dealing with. You guys have a conversation like, this just is not working. You know, this can't continue like this. And I didn't realize you felt that way. And I wasn't doing the laundry because you weren't doing the laundry. And I thought, if you're not going to put in the effort, why should I? And you guys have this beautiful moment and you talk it through and everybody's great. And then the next morning you wake up and nobody does the damn laundry. We have that conversation with ourselves in our own mind. And I am talking still about discernment. I think we've got to be able to discern some of the different voices in our own head, some of the different patterns of thinking. Remember, I was talking about the majority of what we do is on autopilot. That means in that minimal amount of time where you are in the cockpit, you got to steer that thing. You know, you got to be able to check in and say, hey, is this the trajectory that I want this flight to be going? You know, is this where we're trying to head? And you got to make those adjustments and you got to change. I don't think there's anything wrong with autopilot, but you've got to adjust it. You've got to calibrate it is probably the term. Courage implies fear by diction. I feel like it does not. It can, however, impede societal capital, but those are not necessarily anxious at the idea. Yeah, this guy, whoever this guy is, he gets it. You know what I'm saying? I certainly appreciate that. All of your discussions are welcome. There's no right or wrong answer. I love this. Again, I know part of the reason I changed up the dynamic was like I didn't want to just be, I'm just going to read a book to you for 4 hours. I didn't want to do that. I like interacting. I like hearing your thoughts. I really am looking forward to, you know, book suggestions so that my journey here. So I think we were talking about holes. I mean, we were talking about holes. Again, they're going to wreck me. I know the Clippers and the internet folks, they're going to go dumb with this. But it talked about discernment in different quotes. I'll just read one of them to you. I don't need bodyguards. That was Jimmy Hoffa 1 month before his disappearance, right? So semi-famous last words, or famous semi-last words is probably the better way to say that. But he does a fantastic thing. I've gone 7 chapters. I haven't really given you the structure of these chapters. So let me do that. I've told you already that there's 2 quotes. If you're gonna, pick up the book, The 21 Indispensable Qualities of a Leader, by all means do that. But if you just kind of want to enjoy this breakdown, then I figure I should actually break it down. So he does 2 quotes to begin every chapter. He gives you a blurb. Maybe I would say the meat of the chapter comes next. That's normally about a page, 2.5 pages, maybe at most. Then he gives like a fleshing it out. So he gives you a nice little, I'll call it a piece of meat. I know if Alex was here, he could give me this language, but the main course of the discussion, right? Then fleshing it out, I would say, is the side dish. He kind of makes some accompanying points. He dives in a little bit deeper. He seasons what's already on the table there. It's already on the plate there. He normally gives you 4 bullet points or, numbered kind of. The structure of his points is very easy to read, very easy to follow along to, very easy to keep up with. Again, I'm saying relatively. Please don't somebody come for me in the comments. I'm not going to put myself in a situation where I get in trouble, but I'm not aware of every ism and ist and all of that kind of stuff. So if I, again, stumble along, and toughen up, pussy. But then he goes on to say, reflecting on it, that's how we can kind of look back on what he just said, how we can kind of tie it all together. Then he does bringing it home, I think is my favorite. He kind of concludes all of these things. He really ties the dish together just to keep that culinary framework going. Then he does a daily takeaway. Now, these are not necessarily tasks all the time, and I really do appreciate that. A lot of times they're like a completely different short story. It's a little something else that highlights what he's talking about. Sometimes it's a look back to a character or a person that we've already covered in that chapter. Some of my favorite ones are when it's like, hey, this is a very short story about somebody you haven't heard about at all during this chapter or anywhere in this book, but it highlights this point very succinctly. All right, I'm out. There are few of the daily takeaways that are like a little task. Hey, I want you to write this down. Hey, I want you, for the next week, consider how you're blah. Some of those are there, but it's not really a homework kind of book. Some books are very much like, I'm reading through here. Now I'm going to have homework that I'm going to do. I'm going to, build a matrix and write my values in this corner and write my aspirations in that corner. But this isn't that kind of book. But there are some really good nuggets. Last thing I'll say, doing this framework, you can read the book at your own speed, obviously, and I encourage you to do that. The chapters are, I would say, meaty enough that if you are the kind of person that really wants to break it down and really wants it to like soak into your subconscious, I do think a good chapter or 2 a day is a good pace. I think it gives you enough stimulation to feel like, okay, I actually read. I didn't just, I'm not talking about like picking up a flashcard. I read 3 lines today and I just keep it pushing. If you want that, if you want to satiate that feeling, right? And readers know what I'm talking about. I want to read enough to really feel like I'm, working the old brain. But at the same time, everything doesn't need to be a dense, 20-ounce porterhouse in terms of reading. So I think that you really can't go wrong with this book. It's short enough. It is succinct enough that if you're able to read at that consistent clip, that aggressive, and you're able to process it at that clip, by all means, go for it. There's no reason that you can't. But it doesn't read like a novel. So it's not like, I'm reading this book and it's just a page turner. I don't know where the story's going to go next. It's very easy for you to say, like, okay, that was that chapter. That was that concept. That was that framework of thought.